Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. And very sad news from over the weekend about the passing of Craig Breen in a testing crash in Croatia. Honestly, I've said some pretty nasty things. Well, not nasty, but I've poked fun at Craig Breen because he crashed a lot. And that's still true. He did crash far too often. But he was still a great rally driver. He scored, I think, 9 podiums. And he never really had a stable seat in the series. Constantly he was doing part seasons for teams. I think in fact he only did sort of 3 full seasons, and even then he missed a couple of events in the 2 of those. So 2022 was really his only full year. And that doesn't really help with his performance because he's never really had a stable time in a car over a few years where it's developed. And it's just never really worked out for him. But he was still a very good rally driver, and it's a huge shame for anything like this to happen. Now, I think it brings up a lot of questions about safety in rallying as well. You don't want to see things like this happen. It's always shocking. But when you think that the danger is also part of the appeal, where do you go from here? You can't just say we're not going to go on routes with telegraph poles or trees, because that would limit it so much. So it's going to be a tough time for the WRC. Hyundai are still competing, which I think is the right thing to do, and I'm sure they'll pay tribute in some way. But this was pretty horrifying. Craig Breen was exactly 11 days older than me, which is far too young. So very, very sad news to start us off today. Honestly, probably the best Irish rally driver that I can at least think of the top of my head, and for a country that has a rich rallying history, Craig Breen is a big loss. Now, this video is actually about the World Endurance Championship, because what I want to talk about is the round at Portamal that happened over the weekend. I'm not doing like a full roundup because there wasn't a whole lot of action this weekend. There was a few things going on, but it was interesting. Toyota again dominated. The number 8 car won the race and lapped the entire field, including all of the hypercars. But the number 7 Toyota ran into issues. I think it was a sensor issue or something. They had to make big changes, big repairs to the car during the race, dropped them way back, which proves Toyota aren't completely invincible. They do have their gremlins every now and again, which has been true over the last few years as well. Ferrari also didn't run flawlessly, neither did Porsche, and pretty much all the hypercar teams had some issue somewhere. Peugeot again have improved, but are still a long way off. If I had to choose a team that could beat Toyota by the end of 2023, I would say it's Ferrari, because it looks like they lack pace, but the car is good. And we saw they got the jump on the number 8 Toyota at the start. They were running in second for a few laps, but then the Toyota got past them and pretty much left them behind. But the 50 Ferrari ran smoothly through the race, finished second. They're currently sitting second in the championship ahead of one of the Toyotas, which I'm sure is more than they would have expected at the start of the year. This Ferrari, I think, has the best platform for development, where I think they can slowly focus on getting back up to, not back up, but slowly get that car up to the Toyota's pace, make it a challenger. The Porsche Penske is pretty good too, and it won at Long Beach at the weekend in America, and finished third for their first podium in WEC with this new car, and very, very impressive. The Cadillac ran smoothly as well, it got to fourth. The only thing I'll say about Cadillac is because they're only run one car, they're getting half as much data as everyone else. So we'll have to see how that works out for them. But it does look like a good car as well. Ferrari did have a little issue with their second car in which the brakes were disintegrating. And we saw with the van wall, the front brake exploded, Villeneuve spun around and the van wall was out. But again, even the smaller teams, Glickenhaus ran fairly smoothly, even though they were low down. It's sort of what you expect of them, but they were decent enough. And the van wall was running okay until it had a brake issue. Peugeot had their gremlins again, but they did some testing at Paul Ricard recently, and they've apparently made improvements to the gearbox. And they're making progress, but considering they've had more time on track than most of the other teams around them, with the exception of Toyota, they should be doing better than they are. Hopefully by the end of the year, that Peugeot will also be up to speed. And then I think it's going to be very close. I think at some point we're going to have 5 teams with very good cars that have all made progress through the year. Toyota might feel a bit more threatened by then. And that's the goal for the championship, I think, because the first 2 races of 2023 have been very, very good. I am not as much overtaking at Portimao. It's a difficult track to overtake on. It's also less bumpy than Sebring. But I think it was still an interesting race. There was a lot of different strategies going on. The Cadillac ran completely differently to every other team. And it was interesting to see where they were going to end up. And we had 5 different teams in the top 5. Which I think is a very healthy thing for the championship. Toyota are going to win the championship. Easy. They're probably going to win Le Mans. They're going to win most of the rounds. Maybe one round, both Toyotas have hiccups and one of the Ferraris or the Porsches get lucky. But otherwise, I think Toyota are still going to dominate this year. Next year could be different. A whole year of development, all that information, all that data. Ferrari and Porsche, very good, experienced teams. They can do it. Ferrari are doing better here than they are in Formula 1 right now. And I think that car is definitely going to be a challenger at some point. I think it's going to be a lot closer by the end of this year. Next year, I think it's going to be right on Toyota's tail. And that's going to be very, very interesting to watch, especially with new teams coming in as well. We've got BMW, Lamborghini, Alpine. BMW have had track time with their car in the IMSA. I mean, I don't know where Lamborghini are with their car. I don't know where Alpine are with theirs. But Alpine, again, they've been racing. They ran a Hypercar last year. They're doing LMP2 this year. They've got lots of experience as well. They can make it work. And we've got privateer teams as well. Hertz and I think Proton are going to be running customer Porsches. It's going to be interesting to see how they work out. And again, I'm sure they'll share information with Porsche as well. So that's even more cars to gather data for them. It's looking good. The WEC is fantastic right now. And I think the next race is only a couple of weeks away at Spa. I am majorly looking forward to that one. I love Spa as a track. I love these new hypercars. That is going to be fantastic. I guarantee it. I still think Toyota's going to win it, but that race is going to be amazing. As for everything else happened this weekend, IndyCar, we had a brand new winner in Kyle Kirkwood, who drove fantastically all weekend. This was the first time he finished in the top 9. He's had a season and a few races, but he's never finished higher than 10th. He took a win here, but it wasn't a fluke. He was quick all weekend. He took pole, took the race win. He led most of the race as well. It was a fantastic drive from the young man. Romain Grosjean got some redemption in second, but he will be disappointed he didn't take his first win. I think it is still on the cards. It's been a tough start to the year, but Romain Grosjean, he has to win at some point. I mean, he's come close a few times now, and what happened at the first race was very unfortunate, but he's experienced. I'm sure he'll get there eventually. There wasn't really too much else to say about the IndyCar. I like Long Beach. I think any track that has a flower garden in the middle of it is worthy of motor racing. I wish more tracks had flower gardens in the middle. But it wasn't the most exciting race in IndyCar history. It's a difficult track to overtake on. But Andretti did very well because Colton Herta was 4th or 5th. So they had 3 cars in the top 5. And we had some of the ones the title contenders, or people you'd consider title contenders, who had a very difficult race. Scott Dixon retired. He got shuffled into the wall by Pato O'Ward, who had a very bad race himself. He would spin as well and drop down. It was interesting. I think Joseph Newgarden only finished like 9th or 10th. I think he had an incident with Alex Rossi at the end. So it's shaking the championship up a bit. I think it's very wide open this year. I can tell you who's going to be the 2023 champion in IndyCar. My money would be on Joseph Newgarden, because I think he looks really on it, even though he had a disappointing finish at Long Beach. He was leading at one point, and I think he started like 9th. I think it was a strategy mistake, but I think he was running the wrong tyres at the wrong time. But it's still a very good drive from Newgarden. You can never really count him out. I think this is the year he wins the D500 and the championship. Super GT wasn't a great race. It was raining. It ended up getting red flagged early. There's a few incidents that happened, but it wasn't amazing. Quintarelli and Matsuda, they are two of the most experienced drivers there. Both have won a lot of Super GT races. I don't know who has won the most Super GT races ever, but those two have got to be up there. I think Matsuda's won like 21 and Quintarelli's won like 18. So for Japanese racing, those are big numbers. It's by comparison, like the most in Super Formula in the Super Formula era is only like 9. So 21 wins in Super GT is very impressive. Next week, or this weekend, I actually haven't even looked at what's on. British Touring Cars is this weekend, I know that. Everything else is complete blank, I can't remember. So that'd be a nice surprise. I wasn't doing too much work last week. I uploaded a couple of videos, but I had a lot of family commitments, so I didn't have a lot of time. This week I've got 5 videos planned, I think. 4 or 5. And, you know, I may throw more in if I have time and if something worthy of talking about comes up. But that was it for this one. Do you think Ferrari can catch Toyota by the end of 2023? Or do you think it will happen next year? Or do you think another team is going to be the one to finally put an end to Toyota's dominance? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the IndyCar and Super GT as well. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe and have a good one.